Hello, good evening. Let me find my buttons and things. There we are. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Happy November 21st. Yes, that's the Thursday we are currently engaging in. Hello, Cat Paw. Welcome. Hello, Nelly. I am back with my patchwork shenanigans. I think we are getting somewhere. I still haven't covered the whole thing, but progress is being made, so that is exciting. How is everyone doing? Glad Hatter, welcome. How are everyone? You doing all right? Are you making anything fun or just relaxing? I'm a bit tired today, so it might be a very even more chill and low key stream than usual because I'm feeling a little bit, I don't know. In Norway you would say I feel like a potato, but potatoes are very useful vegetables, so maybe something else. I had kitties here for a little while, but they ran off again in search of brighter and more exciting adventures. So let's see if they return. Winter has come to these areas of the world, so Spouse put on the heated blankets and the cats have been very, very enthusiastic, to put it mildly. It's so very cute. Oh, Dor, hello, my love. Would you like to join so that the viewers can have a cat cam? Hi. Exhausted but happy to hang out in the gentle space. I am glad you feel that way, Winry, because so am I. Okay, you want to lie on the lap? See if I can figure out my little cat cam situation. Oops, sorry for touching the microphone. For these situations. Are you both coming now? Is this because Spouse is in the restroom? I don't have Snacks, Embla, I just have Snuggles. I'm doing some sketching, but a bit distractible about it. I hear you on that. I've been filming today, and the focus has not quite been with me. Let's see. Oh, there she is. My little snuggle bag. Loki is fine. I have nice tea. That is very nice. I also have a nice tea. I have my usual green tea and mint, but Spouse spruced it up for me and added both sage and ginger, so we have a truly excellent winter brew today. Potatoes are very useful vegetables. We should all aspire to be potatoes. True. I heard someone talk about, I don't know if this was a study or not, but someone told me once that the three, for you to survive the longest, eating only 3 things before you succumb to malnutrition. But if you wanted to keep at it for as long as possible, eating only 3 things, you would get the furthest by having potatoes, eggs, and salt. Because salt is important, which was quite an amusing. Don't know if that's a fact, but it was something someone told me. Would be knitting, but no joints are not up to it today, and it would make my furry friend very upset. She associates my knitting with being outside. Oh, that's lovely, but I'm sad about your joints, but at least we get to just hang out and chill. Let's see if we can... There she is. My little loaf. Yeah, more people voting in favor of potatoes. They have all the nutrients you need. They're very good vegetables. They really, really are. Absolutely underestimated. Good vegetables. Haley is starting the Silbu Code by Skeindir Knits. Ooh, exciting. Silbu Codes are lovely. Really, really nice. Hope you have a lot of fun with that. Lunchtime for Carolyn. It's been a while since this was just lunch tea for me. Happy to catch your live for a relaxing evening. Well, welcome, Julia. I am glad you find it so. Several votes in favor of the tea. Yes, it is very nice in my thermos cup, which is less aesthetic but so very useful when we are sipping slowly for many hours at a time. We still haven't gotten the old camera back from the shop, so we are still on the new camera, which does not have the same battery life as the old one. So the battery will probably die at some point. You'll have to let me know. I actually ordered a thing to like help. That thing it's called the dummy battery. It has a plug kind of where you put it where the battery would be, and then it connects directly to your electricity, so it's just constantly feeding power to your camera. And I thought it arrived today, but I only got one half. They gave me the half that plugs into the camera, but they didn't give me the half that plugs into, your wall socket, because all over the world we have different wall sockets, so they have different ones, but they didn't give me the adapter for my plug. So close, and yet so far. So the camera is gonna die today. We're gonna figure it out. I have spare batteries that have been charged, so we're gonna figure it out, but it'll be startling. Like, it'll suddenly go black, and then we'll have to figure it out. But we'll see. Got my new knoll binding needle in the mail today. Oh, that is really nice, Max. From bamboo. I've never tried a bamboo needle, but I assume they work just as well as any other needle. Very cool. Nelly is working on a filet crochet chemise yoke. Ooh, wow. But on the hook it's so small, I'll probably switch projects soon. I can relate. When it gets a little bit too fiddly, sometimes one needs a break. Catpaw has a coffee and cat company. Oh, that sounds lovely. The temp dropped last night and all the joints are feeling it, including Milo cat. Ah, yeah, temperature dropped here the last few days as well. I imagine to quite a bit lower than down in South America. We've been having minus 10 degrees. So well below freezing centigrade. Unsure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it is several steps below freezing. So quite cold. Legit just came back from the store to grab a potato snack. Love it. Love a good potato. Hello, Lynn. Welcome. Once again, finishing up bento for my mom. It's her birthday. Oh, congrats to your mom. So I want to make it a bit fancier than what I've been doing lately. That sounds very nice. Potatoes for all? Yes, for everyone. And tea too, if you want it. Are you going up on those shelves, sweetie? I do think they are strong enough that you can jump on them. I did make them into a little kiddie staircase, didn't I? Interior design with cats. Potatoes makes me ill. Allergic to chocolate too. Oh no, that is quite sad, Catpaw. My commiserations. I hope you have another snack that you enjoy, that you can have instead. Not that we are having potatoes right now, but I hope you have something else that you enjoy. That must be quite... Allergies are always frustrating. Whatever they may be, they can be quite limiting. Hope the other half of the cable combo comes soon. Sounds much better for a studio space than having a battery. Yeah, I like it because it means that if we wanted to in the weekend or something like that, if we wanted to, we could do longer streams. It also means that I don't have to worry about wearing out the camera batteries when I'm streaming, which I do worry about for filming elsewise. Like, you have different solution, one for streaming and one for filming. I don't know, I seem to wear out batteries reasonably fast, despite my best efforts anyway, but my hope is that by having separate solutions for continuous filming and for filming other kinds of footage, you would wear out the battery less quickly. I also, another possibility with a battery pack like this, Madam Autofocus, you are not, this camera doesn't like my face. Or I think it tries to focus on Spouse's lovely background, but it's blurry, so she can't really figure out what is going on with that because it's blurry and it's meant to be blurry, and poor camera is very confused. But what I was going to say was that with a battery pack like the one that didn't exist for the previous camera, but it exists for this one, is that you can do time lapses, and you can do long time lapses, potentially, which might be fun. I don't know. We'll have to see when and if the rest of it arrives. Getting our first snow in the Midwest, North America, and I'm very excited. Ooh, snow buddies. We have had our first, well, not our first snow. We had the first for when I filmed a few weeks ago, but then it melted and now we've had a new bout that has stayed for a couple of days. It still doesn't usually stay this early in the season, but it's staying right now. We're going to get more this weekend, so we shall see. But right now it is very cold and it is staying, and it's glittery and frosty and all the trees are covered, very picturesque, because when it fell, I mean, if you're not used to snow, this might be a bit weird to explain, but if it's very, very cold, like well below freezing, when a snow falls, it kind of just falls straight to the ground, very soft, very nice. But this snow fell while wet, so it was like wet snow. So it stuck to all the branches, and then all the branches get full of white snow, and then it freezes, so then it stays. And now it's like very white and very bright everywhere, because there's this white stuff reflecting light everywhere, and the brightness is just... I say it every year when the snow comes, and it just baffles me every time. It's such an enormous difference in light levels as soon as the snow arrives. While it's white, it's lovely. And English says, hi, I kept checking to see when you were going live. Well, I'm live now. Finally snowed here, so I'm all comfy with my cats and knitting Victorian mittens. I'm excited you're on. Hope you're feeling better. Well, thank you. I am excited to be on as well, to share this moment with you. I've been feeling a little bit better. I'm still doing the hard work of managing the lifestyle management part of chronic illness, which I actually think is a very hard part, the sleeping and the exercise and the diet and all of the everything. It's quite a lot of work, but it has been working, so fingers crossed. Shall see how it goes, if I can manage to stick with it, because it takes up quite a bit of time every day, but it does give us more stable days, which is very valuable. Hello everyone, hello Catherine, contemplating more food with lots of delicious suggestions. That sounds amazing. I've already had dinner today, so I'm all just stocking up on tea. Time lapses can look really cool in videos. That sounds like it might be fun to play with. I think so. We just have to figure out what to do about it. I'm sure we will have some good ideas when and if the rest of it arrives. Especially during the night, fresh snowfall can look amazing. Oh, it really can. When it's dark and the light, like the lamps, are reflecting the white snow, it can be very striking. But I was going to work on my own project, not just sit here and talk about it. We have our little Victorian patchwork pouch that has been my forever project since we started this live streaming business, and we are getting somewhere, slow though I am, in between all the other. Have my tea and my blanket, and I'm knitting a sock. Nice, Luxelaire. I will have to pop out early because I have driver training today. Ooh, exciting. The very best of luck for that. I hope it goes well. Snowed for the very first time this year for me last night, and even more right now. It's very beautiful. Yes, I agree, Nelly. It is very beautiful. There's always something to enjoy about each season, isn't there? Does so you mean your spouse knit or sew? Spouse is not the biggest fan of knitting. They complain that it's too many stitches, but they are a dab hand. They're very good at crochet. Really very, very skillful. They made a little baby Cthulhu for me, an amigurumi, that I brought out last time, but I didn't actually bring it out this time, and I am, as you can see, very much stuck, so I can't fetch it for you, but they are very, very skilled at that. They're also very good at weaving stories and storytelling and creative ventures like that, and have a lot of fun with that kind of thing. But I think the main thing, at the moment at least, for traditional crafty stuff is crochet, but they also do like modeling and fun things. They are very versatile in the things that they like to do. Wait, what am I? We're crossing. Like so, yes. Plant time lapses are always fun, they wiggle. Oh, there are so many really good time lapse channels for that on YouTube. I get stuck on those. They are really fun. I really enjoy that kind of content. Even though they're kind of short by default because they have to be sped up for you to see it, they can be really, really cool. That kind of snowfall at night is my favorite thing. I could sit with a hot drink and watch that for hours. Yes, it's so relaxing. It's so tranquil. It is very nice. And everything gets so quiet when the snow comes. It's super, super quiet. It just muffles everything. You're a bit hard to see for the poor viewers. Let's see if we can, oops, convince. Yeah, that isn't much help, is it? Can do a little bit. There is a lump, and the lump is cat, I promise. Hurry, baby. It's very quiet. Home from work with a bad head cold. Oh no, it's the only time I've been able to join because of time differences. Oh, that's sad to hear, Lisa. I've been working on a 1930s knitted sports jumper, but haven't been able to concentrate on the strangely written instructions. Oh, good luck with that. The instructions can be a bit finangly. Yeah, time zones can be rough. It's difficult. I hope you feel better soon, though. Being sick is no fun, chronic or otherwise. There we go. Yeah, I started ambitiously by trying to have live streams at different times, but it quickly got to be too much, so we pared it back. But I wish I could accommodate more time zones than we are currently able to, but of course I have to accept the reality that there is only one of me. It's disappointing, I know. Oh, sorry, madam. Am I getting it on your back? I love how there always such a great big difference in projects when we are talking about it. Some are cleaning or some are just relaxing, just hanging out, having a chill time, but there's always a plethora of different things that people are doing, which I think is kind of the whole point of doing crafty things, that you can do many different things and everyone can have fun and share experiences and have a good time. Pink stars will be nice for this section. I feel like I should pick out more colors, but I'm not sure which ones I haven't actually covered. I just feel like I should figure out a way to add even more rainbow colors to this already fun thing. I wonder what I'm missing that I haven't thought about. You ever get that when you're like I feel like it needs this, but you can't actually identify what this factor is. Round 3, here we go for ganache. Ooh, good luck, Lynn. Ganache can be a fiddly beast. Is it curdling on you? Is that the problem? But I hope, fingers crossed, that third time is the charm, no matter the challenges it presents. I believe in you. But yeah, we have a little heated blanket hanging out, and Soot has been absolutely loving life since we brought it out. It's a very, very happy cat. It's very fun to see. Maybe some decorative contrast stitching? Yes. I mean, the whole thing is contrast stitching along everywhere, but what is a contrast to the contrast? Unsure. Oh, you just underestimated how much you needed. That's fair. That happens. My pardon, miss. It was just my clumsy elbow. Where else can we use a tiny amount of pink thread? I really need to learn to have like bigger seam allowances and just throw out smaller amounts of leftover yarn, because I am a bit hopeless in trying to get out as much as I can from whatever it is that I am doing, but it's so satisfying and so much fun to feel like you have thoroughly used up everything of a thing. Or perhaps that's just me, but I find it super, super satisfying to figure out, can I do this and win yarn chicken or whatever? Elbow, will you stop shaking the table? Making oneself a list of the colors that I already have, and then try to use the ones that aren't there. That's not a bad idea. Certainly not a bad idea. I'm probably stitching too close to the edge as well, and I'm going to lose a fair bit of my stitching to things like the edge binding. But I do feel like maybe that is preferable to stitching too far away, and then the edge binding ends up having this like gap where the embroidery should have been. I'm not sure if there is a better or worse in that regard. Just guess it's just preferences, like with everything. Alright. Maybe use the yarn leftovers for stuffing? I do. I do that too, and yet I can't help myself. Yarn chicken is indeed a dangerous trap. It is. It is very tempting. And then you're sat there and you're lost and you're like, should have spliced it or should have done something else a little bit earlier, but I guess it is what it is. Ooh, maybe I can add a little pink center to this flower. Ooh. And then it will be too short for anything. She has been very contact seeking recently. Would you like to choose a color? No? Nothing interesting? And of course, it's always devastating when you have to work and your cat is asking for snuggles. But what can we do? You are very cute. And we have some purple. Wait, where am I? You fell down. Rude. You're heading out? Well, see you. Have a good one, Winry. And you'll just have a very chill time. Hope you have a good wherever you are going. And we are about to have ads, so we will have a little break. You don't miss anything, don't worry, just chill out and we will see you on the other side. I feel like no matter where I add stuff, because there's like anything from black to light, I end up with one side that is harder to see. That's my thread, madam. She is generally very good about thread. I should not tease her, it'll come back to bite me. For sure. Been making scrappy quilts lately, and I'm looking at a knitting pattern called Northeasterly as a way of using up small bits of leftover yarn. It's meant to be a blanket. Ooh, I love that. I love that there are so many different techniques and recipes and local variations for using up leftover yarn and leftover scraps of fabric and leftover anything. I kind of want to explore the many different ones, because there are so many different ones that I just love seeing how people get creative about this stuff. It's really, really cool. And of course, we like using scraps. So why not? Would you rather make it as a scarf? Well, I don't see why not. There's no reason why it couldn't be a very nice scarf. I keep forgetting to. Well, I drink all the other times except for during the break. A bit slow-brained today, but yeah, I love patchwork things. I've been doing more of it. This is a great way to use up scraps. You were going to slide down. Been wanting to make these ones a little cat bed out of wool scraps because that would be adorable. But the only problem with scrap projects, much as I love them, is that if you're trying to produce videos with any sort of close-ish something like regularity, at least a little bit, then patchwork projects, because they're dealing with tiny bits of fabric, they do take a fair amount of time, but oh, they're so satisfying and they're so meditative. I find they're so calming because it's like you're just doing small things over and over again, and then you end up with something, a bigger piece of fabric than when you started, which is really, really cool. So I really enjoy patchwork techniques, with the only limitation that I'm trying to also make videos for you all, and I have to limit either the scale of the patchwork or, you know, not necessarily do a video of a whole project per video, but maybe pieces of a project, because they take time, but oh, they're so satisfying. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kelly. I hope you are having a good morning this fine Thursday in November. We have been chatting about snowfall and potatoes and various other fun things. I also have a cat on my lap that is very slowly sliding further and further off my lap, because somehow she still hasn't learned that that happens every time. But it is apparently such a comfortable spot that we do it anyway. Yeah, you. I wonder if it gets confused, because I mean, I typically talk to the cats in Norwegian, but once we are on the stream, my brain kind of flips over to English, but I made my first patchwork blanket and I hated putting together the squares. The blanket became just so unwieldy and heavy, and I still have to do the top stitching to secure the layers together. Oh yeah, I can understand that. Like, any kind of working on the tiniest pieces by themselves is pretty nice, but anytime you're dealing with a really big piece of something, that can get really unwieldy, especially like under a sewing machine or even by hand as well. Like, it gets really big and hard to figure out where to put your hands. I don't know, that's a good point, Julia. Oh, you loved English paper piecing though. That one is actually relaxing. Oh yeah, that's a fun one. That is a really fun one. That's a good point you bring out about the top stitching. If I ever do a bigger quilt, I think I might try to like have individual squares that are entirely separate from each other. I think I've seen it called something as quilt as you go or something like that, but kind of the principle being that you finish the whole thing, so maybe batting and top stitching and all for each little square, and then you stitch them together at the end. And the nice thing about that, of course, the weak points would then be the seams, because that's the only place your blanket is connected. But the benefit being that you don't have to have such an unwieldy thing and trying to top stitch it or get it together, because you only have to put it together. You don't have to do more top stitching or anything like that. I don't know. Would have to do some experimentation. Not sure if I can share links or Ravelry links with Will, but here's a splendid example of Northeasterly. You can indeed not share links in YouTube chat, I'm afraid. It does remove those automatically, but if you join our Discord and you wish to share it in an appropriate channel, then you can share links there, at least after a little while. So Ravelry patterns are shared quite frequently in the Discord if you have such things, but I'm afraid links from anyone other than the streamer are automatically disabled, and I can't even approve them because I don't even see them. They are invisible. They just go away. Be my first project with steeking. I'm so nervous. Ooh, that's yeah, I have not gotten that far, so best of luck with that, Haley. I hear it's supposed to be fine, but like you, I'm also a bit like, it seems so scary. I've spent so many hours making that thing, and then you secure it to ultimately cut it open again. It's... I wish you much bravery with this quite scary task. And more commiserations in chat that steeking is terrifying. Yeah, it absolutely is. I should have done quilt as you go. I saw someone doing crochet in the seams of the quilt. Cool. I love it when people mix techniques. I'm sorry, madam. I'm disturbing you. But yeah, it's one of the things I really like when I'm looking at crafts online, is that suddenly you pick up a small piece of something or a little technique that someone is doing and you're like, oh, that's really clever. Let me implement that into this other thing that I am doing over here. Clearly you're the one causing her to fall, and she's trying to train you into not making her fall by coming back until you get it. I suppose you're probably not wrong. Our cat overlords are always right after all. Maybe I just need to grow a straighter lap that doesn't have such an incline. Is that what I should do? Fix my anatomy. What is your dream project? I don't know. Don't think I really have a dream project. I kind of just make what I want to make. I think I'm bad at creating things in that regard. I don't typically design a project and then go out looking for fabrics for it and then make the thing, and then if I can't find the right fabric, then all is for naught. My projects evolve out of what I already have in-house, and sometimes I'll see a nice fabric and be like, ooh, I would like to have that, and make something out of it, like a skirt or a cape or a vest or something, and then it might sit in my stash for a while until I go, ah yes, you are the fabric for my next project. So I don't know, I don't think I have a dream project. I kind of just go from one project to the next, having fun as I go. What about other people's favorite project? Do other people have favorite projects for that? Or delusional? Gotta be a first time? Nah. Can only steek with wool. I'm using a cotton blend that absolutely won't felt. I don't think you can only steek with wool. What is steeking? So steeking is, I haven't done this myself because I've only ever made 2 sweaters. I've never actually steeked one. So you knit the sweater as if it's a sweater itself, and then you run, usually you have a seam of like purl stitches or something where you want to cut it open to turn it into a cardigan, because most people knit faster when you just knit on the straight round rather than knit and purl back and forth like a cardigan. So you knit it as a sweater, and then you take your sewing machine or something and you run 2 seams on either side of where you're going to cut, and then you cut it and you fill it back and you put probably a ribbon on the inside so that it looks nice. And sometimes people will add a button placket on either side as well. But yeah, basically you knit a sweater and then you secure it and then you cut it open and turn it into a cardigan. It's terrifying after having spent so many hours on a thing. But so long as you secure it well with nice small stitches so that it doesn't unravel, as far as I know, it should be all right. But I mean, of course, needing to do the stitches, make sure you secure it and fold it back and secure it more with a ribbon or something so that there's no raw edge. All the usual thing that keeps us safe from losing all our hours of hard work. People in the chat saying you absolutely need to use wool. Interesting. Plant acrylic fibers don't stick to each other. Oh, that is scary. I have never tried that. But yeah, try a test swatch. That's a good one, Lisa. Try a test swatch. It's a very, very good point. Yeah, Lisa also coming in with machine stitch your steek point prior to cutting. You should be fine, but really, really reinforce it. Aw, poor Haley. Haven't even begun the project yet. Don't want to buy all new yarn. Might be risky and make a swatch and test it out. Making a swatch and testing, it is not risky. That is like the opposite of risky. That is the good thing. Like if you wanted to test it, that is really that is the opposite of of risky. But yeah, that is how I have heard about it, at least, is that you run 2 seams, fairly good tight seams on either side of the steek point, and then you cut, and then you fold it back, and then you put a ribbon on the back as well, so you really encase that edge so it doesn't fray and get exposed to wear and tear and rubbing and all of the things. But a test swatch is always the right solution. We always like a good test swatch. Hello Alex, good evening. Sorry, we got a bit stuck in the weeds with talking about steeking and all the terrors associated with, you know, having made a thing lovingly and then cutting it open to turn it into something else, and all the perils thus involved. That sounds hard, yeah. I think it's scary more than hard. The people who do it regularly are like, it isn't that bad, it's just terrifying. You know, cutting anxiety, but multiplied by many things because you made the fabric yourself. Nelly chiming in, if I had a dream project, I think it would be a lace shawl that I spun and dyed the yarn myself for. Nothing specific though. Oh, that's lovely. I do love me a good, like, from... I know a lot of people in chat have these projects too, but like all the way from fleece or cotton balls or whatever to finished garment, like through the different crafts and different steps, would be a very, very satisfying project. I know some people even go so far as to having sheeps of their own so that they can not only spin from the fleece, but spin fleece from their own sheep. And it's just, people do so many cool things. So many cool projects. Limiting links on YouTube reduces spam, which is good. Yes, it does. It's not something I would probably turn off if I could, although I can't see it. But you can post links on our little Discord server, so you are welcome to share things there if you want. Current dream project of Loxalair is an Argyle vest, but it's only dream because I don't have the yarn for it yet. That is a good one. Yeah, it all becomes reality eventually. Gotta go. The driving instructor is arriving soon. Yes, best of luck. Hope you have a good trip. Absolutely. You shall do a couple of swatches? Yes. Swatches are always like, they feel like they take more time, but then when you've done it, you're like, I'm glad I did, because then you can do small adjustments to figure out or like accommodate to what it was that you learned, which is always valuable. Of course you can do it, Haley. We believe in you. You can do the thing. But in a, no pressure way. Don't want people to feel pressured to do the thing. And it is also okay to throw projects if they don't bring you joy anymore, but whichever you are going for is alright. It's very convoluted, all this reassuring language, but I find it happens quite naturally. Dark thread on dark fabric was maybe not this choice. I shall be curious to hear about more of these steeking adventures. I want to do it one day, but don't think quite yet. How many more seams do we have left to go on this one? I think we really are starting to get somewhere, which is nice. And still, it has not been my longest project by far. And we have been making steady progress on it. I mean, one day I should like to try to make a crazy patchwork quilt-sized quill, a big blanket. And that would take a good amount of time and a good amount of scraps. I'd probably like produce scraps as I'm making it and end up with many different squares of many different color schemes, because the scraps I had when I started are not the same scraps I had when and if I actually finished the thing. Which could be a really fun effect, like history of crafting through another craft, a bit like people are doing temperature blankets, but it is its own craft, the documentation. Craft within a craft. Almost missed this one. Thursday has come fast this week. Oh, it's been one of those weeks, eh? Well, welcome. Hope you're having a restful time. Hope you are doing... I couldn't say better this week, but taking it easy with yourself and all of those things. I have more purple on my needle, but I feel like there's enough purple over here. What about this little corner? You are a good corner contender for some purple. Just this tiny, tiny spot over here. We had the funeral this morning, so I haven't done anything else today. Oh yeah, I can really understand that. Grieving times are kind of... I know they aren't actually outside of time, but they kind of feel like they are because they get so all-encompassing. But I'm glad you got through that today, and then we can try to sit down together today and have a little bit of a breather. That must have been tough. But I hope you got through it, and that's kind of... that was that. I don't know, words are a bit inadequate in these situations. But you are welcome here, and we shall continue to chill for a little longer and stitch weird patterns onto a piece of cloth until we are quite happy with how much we have overstitched it into oblivion. And at least this is a project that I can do without touching the little purring madam, snoozing madam. Love the distraction of your company? Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm able to provide some comfort in the form of distractions. Sometimes that is what we need, isn't it? Like sometimes you just need a moment without having to think about anything. I know I need that when I'm sick or exhausted or whatever. I kind of just lean into some form of distraction, and that is really, really nice. So I can totally understand that need, that urge to just be able to turn off your brain for a little while, and then you can go back and deal with whatever thing it is that needs dealing with a little later. But for like this hour, I'm just going to sit over here, listen to some music, or just listen to my cat purring, the rain on the window, and do absolutely nothing. So yeah, it is sad, but I'm glad that we can like be together for each other a little bit. I don't know if that is weird, but I feel like that is one of the big things with community, is that I think in the West we are very quick to be individuals, and I'm certainly no exception. But having a community and having someone to lean on, and having, in a sense, some social obligations to take care of each other, is not necessarily, all bad. Of course, there can be a balance between that and completely erasing oneself that we don't want, but ice pack because the milk has come in, which is a funny side as well. Well, so long as it is alright. I guess it must feel a bit interesting as well. So it says Prypt. That's consolation. It is a small consolation, but it brings me warmth anyway. But yeah. I feel like that is one of the things that is easy to lose when you live in a big city. I mean, we have a lot of lonely people that communities did have, and communities back in the day were of course not perfect. There's always going to be challenging people everywhere, but there is something positive in, a lot of positivity in it as well, that might have gotten forgotten a little bit, that we might take the pieces and be like, this was actually a good thing, which is how I feel about a lot of things in history as well. like a lot of us historical enthusiasts will always balk at any person who's like, oh, you wanted to live back in 100 years ago, and we'd be like, nope, I like my rights, as much of them as I have anyway. But if there's, what is that term in English, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that you can still look back and be like, yeah, we've moved past, this time and these ways of doing things, but at the same time, like those and those things were actually not a bad idea. We can actually bring with us, like we were talking about patchwork and using all of your resources, and that is something that can easily be brought into the 21st century, because that is a really good thing to take with us. That is not something to just leave in the past. I'm making a mess of this, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to. I feel like, especially the societies that I've grown up with, like Norway, and I get the impression many other parts of the West as well, have lost a lot of community. But it might actually be a good thing to keep some of it. Okay, madam, we're having a vantage point. Oh, hello. Were you a bit tired and a bit stumbly? Might be right back there after the election. Yeah, it's frustrating, like that rights hardly fought for keep having to be fought for. It's scary. I hope you manage. Hello, madam. We don't need just a lap cam. Integrated cat cam. Oh, that was actually not that bad for my legs. They've been quite static for, well, I guess it's been almost an hour since you joined us. Are you sure you're going down there? That's fire. That's not just a... That's what I thought. And we are about to have some ads, so I guess we shall find our hydration for the moment and just have a little bit of rest. Farewell, madam. Madam off on important catty business? Definitely. Which in the case of that madam is very often off to have a murder date with the cat feeder tower. Which the best... because, cats enjoy, and to a certain extent, have benefit from hunting for their food. Because it's what they do, isn't it? So when you have indoor cats, you need to provide something like that for them. Usually in the form of play, but you can also do it with food. And we have this 3-story cat tower, this magnificent thing. And it's the best feeder that we've had. We also have things like little balls that you fill up with food and they whack it around and food comes out. They are nice. The cats really like them. But they take as long to fill as it takes the cats to empty them, which is less ideal. I would like to just be able to screw it open, pour some in, and screw it back on and give it to them instead of putting them in single piece at a time. And that is what we love about the cat tower, is that you have this 3-story thing and you fill food in the top, and then there are holes on the sides and in the bottom of it, and the cats have to stick their paw in on the side and pour it down, and then it falls into the second story. Oh, battery. Let me give me a moment and I shall fix this issue. Come here. See if I'm long enough to reach. Ooh, tripod, you are a bit far away. There we go. Oops. Right on cue. It's been almost exactly an hour since we started. Whoops. Oh, autofocus. Madam, seriously. Let's see. A little bit higher up. And also, I'm right here. Come on, you can see me. You can do it. Please. No, no, come on. I'm right here. Don't look at the wall. Look at me. Seriously. I'm gonna just... Is that alright? It's not too good. Because this thing also has manual focus, which is very useful for situations like this, but also a bit hard to finagle on the spot. I think we're as good as it's gonna get. We'll just leave it there on manual focus. I'll have to remember that it's on manual focus, which means I can't show you a thing up close because it won't focus on it. But brain, where did you go? I see an extra opportunity for the cat tower cam. I suppose I could document that at some point, but it is hilarious to see the different approaches to this cat tower business. Because they have to, in theory, they're supposed to stick their paw in at the side and pull it down the different stories until it falls out of the bottom and they can eat it. Which is what Embla does, our youngest. She does that. She puts her paw in, very dainty little paw, and she like tricks the food down a little bit at a time. And then she enjoys her little snack. But Soot has still not met a cat food toy that she couldn't just grab with her teeth and shake until it yields. And it works with the cat tower too, and it is pretty hilarious to watch. And I mean, it's not how it was designed, but it does still force her to work for what she's gonna get. She really likes, if we have an empty egg carton that we fill with food, to do the same thing to that one too. They wear out pretty fast. That she will grab it and shake the food all over the floor. And it works, so why stop? Using gold leaf for sure is going to be a learning curve, but I'm finally done. That is... And had tons of ganache left over this time. Well, at least you had enough. That's a good thing. Yeah, I have never made anything with gold leaf. That sounds... I know like some gold and silver leaves that you can use them for food and they're edible, but in my head I'm just like, yeah, but they're metal. Shiny things. But how cool. Fantastic. That sounds like fun. I hope you and your mother has a very good time for her birthday. Sounds like a good time and exciting culinary adventures. So it is funny? Yes, she is very funny. My little murder beast. And, you know, again, she hasn't found a puzzle that couldn't be solved without doing that. No, That is not entirely true. She does have to work if we have this thing with like, what shall I say, a little plate on a hinge, and you have to push the plate away to get to the food in the middle. And sometimes there's also this little thing that you have to shove into the hole, and then you have to remove it to get to the food. And the combination thereof, it's shaped like a leaf, and the cats love that one as well. It's a little bit fiddly to fill, but they are very enthusiastic about it, both cats, when it comes out. We do have we're starting to get a good collection of interactive feeder toys by now, and the cats are very fond of them. Although the best is still just grabbing a food or a snack and just throwing it across the room so they chase it. They love that game. 10 out of 10. Simplest, easiest way to keep your cat entertained. Does anyone have a crochet hook size converter? Can't find mine. Millimeter to English, Mexican, and USA sizes. There are converters, like physical converters for that? So that is interesting, because I have always ever just Googled it and been like, oh, okay, so a size 3 is equivalent to the size whichever I'm looking for. I didn't know they existed as physical objects. If that is indeed what you're talking about, that's an interesting concept. If I'm understanding you correctly. Hello, did you return to us? Yeah, I know there are snacks in the drawer, but we aren't getting those until we're done for today. I've done acres of architectural metal leafing for work. That sounds like a lot of work. That is so cool. Gilding the hallways of the ultra super rich was considered essential work because it was part of construction. Well, that's an interesting circumvention of the intended rules, or like guidelines, shall we say. They're always going to find a way around the guidelines, aren't they? Or the intention of the thing. What is that? Is the term like the letter of the law versus how it actually gets implemented? There is a phrase for that like what was intended where as opposed to how it was actually implemented can be very different indeed. My cats like to play fetch with little mouse toys, and it's extremely cute. Oh, Smithy, that is adorable. Embla too will play fetch if she's really desperate to play with her favorite little red rattle mouse. And it is super, super cute. She only does it for a couple of times, but if she is desperate enough to play and you aren't like running after her, she will fetch, and it is so cute. You're gonna lie over there. Well, you know, your audience wishes to see you, so let's see if I can move my camera without disturbing you over much. Your people, madam, crave the fur baby. Spirit of the law, thank you, that is the word. Yeah, the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And we have so many examples of that, don't we? Like of someone having very good intentions with some sort of guideline and the implementation falling extremely short of what they actually were thinking about. Didn't know they still gilded their places. That's fair. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that either. But, I mean, sometimes you stumble upon listings, even in Norway, where, I mean, we have rich people, but we don't have the ultra, super, extra, mega rich, I think. I'm sure we have some of those too. And you see the listings of, like, if they're selling their house or whatever, or their summer house or whatever. And you go through it, and sometimes you're like, you designed it like this. You wish to live with these giant pillars, and I don't know, I think one had like one of the Gucci or Dolce & Gabbana or something, like one of those big designer brands, like a great big mosaic thing embedded into the floor. I was astounded. I was fascinated and flabbergasted. I would never want to live there, but there was like a certain level of, I don't know, is it anthropological fascination of the human condition? And I have a friend who like phrased it very well when we were looking at one of those like massively expensive homes far away from anything we could ever hope to afford. And her comment was, yeah, but it has one kitchen. My house has a kitchen. It has 3 bedrooms. My house has 3 bedrooms. And there's a bathroom and there's a hall, and like it doesn't have that much more function compared to what my house does. And I thought that was very interesting. And ever since then, I always look at whenever I'm like living through other people like that, kind of looking at those listings that I could never hope to afford, I have this little part of me that goes through, yeah, okay, but how many bedrooms are there? How many bathrooms, kitchens, whatever? How many rooms are there? And it's like, a lot of the times there aren't that many compared to things in a very different price range, which I'm like, oh, it's a fascinating observation in a way. Of course, their families aren't any bigger. It's just like, oh yeah, but you don't actually have that much more functional space in a way. But yeah, in that, Lisa, with your experience, you would have a lot more knowledge about that than I. I'm a theatrical scenic painter, and since theaters were closed, I was very lucky to get work as a decorative painter. That is very fair. Work was hard to come by during the pandemic if you didn't have something that could be easily home officed. I was resigned to doing just about any work, so it was great to be able to use my weird niche skills. That is a very fair point. So anything that pays the bills, right? Even if the whole trickle-down economic concept has been utterly debunked. But kept a roof over one's head, and that is also important. I thought you were purring. You were not purring. Or I might have moved the microphone closer to you so that your people could have heard the glorious but very soft sound. Embla has a much louder purr. So does a very soft purr. But it is very present. Although, to be honest, I wish you would utilize the basket as much as you're doing when I'm live streaming, when I'm editing. Because then you just want to be on my lap, or sit on my keyboard, or any other number of very cat things. Murals are incredibly cool. I hope I can be good enough to DIY one someday. Oh yeah, there are so many cool styles of murals too. Like, I've seen some mural painters that have either very color block styles, or they're very scenic, or they're very different. Oh, there's this lovely, I think they're Welsh, illustrator that does these really goofy, cute little dragons, and they've filled their house like on top of lintels, on top of moldings, close to light switches, and they're just putting dragons everywhere, and I love it. I think they're so adorable. I love it when people fill their homes with whimsy, and we know people did that historically. Like medieval homes were full of color. So many fun things. Like, why do we try to live in a sterile box when we could be painting and enjoying things and just having fun? I think we should make room for a lot more whimsy in our lives and things that make us smile just because they make us smile without any other, like beautifying stuff just for the sake of brightening the mood. I actually had my doctor, one of the things they recommended when I went there, because the old migraines were not giving me a good time, was that for seasonal differences that light therapy lamps have actually gone down enough in price and that they are more affordable for a private person. When I was a student in the Arctic, they had them in the cafeteria so that you could come and enjoy the light in the winter season if you needed it. If you don't know, light therapy lamps are like designed to have a similar frequency and strength of the sun so that it gives you some of that joy and brightness and circadian rhythm that you're lacking in winter if you live in places that have very big differences between night and day. And they used to be frightfully expensive, such that universities might buy a handful to keep in a public area so that you could come there and use it for a little while and then leave. Oh, farewell. But they've come down enough in price that my doctor was like, you might consider that to see if that helps, because they're not frightfully expensive anymore. Which I think is an interesting thing. Like, you have a little piece of sun in your house, in a way, in a technological, strange kind of way. Like, you wouldn't want to replace the real thing, but nevertheless, fascinating technology-wise, I think. How does that interact with light sensitivity? That is a good question, isn't it? They definitely told me, we laughed about it, not to use it on days when I'm feeling a migraine coming on in the first place, because it will probably have similar effect. But then I turn down most lights in the house. Like, I even have not house, but like in the room. Like, if I'm trying to work, which I shouldn't do when I'm in that state, I'm trying to be better about it. But I do have a blackout curtain in my room that, like, you pull it down and the room is completely black. It's as if you have no window. They are extremely effective. Very nice. Recommend if you have any sort of light sensitivity. And they're just, black piece of thing that doesn't let any light through. I don't think they're abhorrently complicated. But I do pull that down if I'm trying to work and I'm feeling a little bit fragile that day. So it was definitely try to use it thoroughly and like on good days, and trying to have enough working with the lifestyle stuff that they have me do with the sleep and the exercise and the regular meals and nutritious meals and all the other hard work that comes with chronic illness, and hoping that that gives you enough of an edge that you're well enough to handle. Also giving yourself more light during the winter, because that can also be beneficial so long as it doesn't trigger you. It's a balancing act. It's a very interesting balancing act. So I don't know, that is kind of the idea of it that we are trying to experiment with, just to see if it works. That's the thing, isn't it? A lot of it is just like, let's try this and see if you feel better. If not, don't do it. I've done one in my student house, and I don't remember if I discussed it with my roommates or my landlord beforehand. I regret not taking a good photo of it before leaving it there. Oh, that is a shame, yeah. It's a vow of artist, isn't it? Of like making a thing and then forgetting to document it, even if it's just a tiny photo for your own self. I can absolutely relate to that. Not being very good about documenting things like gifts, and then you're sat there going, I should have at least left a photo for myself so I could remember what I made, but alas, it is gone. Your info on medieval houses was new to me. Ooh, yeah. There are so many. I think also Roman architecture, Greek architecture, and like a lot of the really white statues, really whitewashed churches, that came later. A lot of churches have traditionally been extremely colorful, and statues too, like super, super colorful. And we kind of have this idea that the statues were always whitewashed, but they were not, or like sun bleached. But people loved color. They wanted as much color as they could get, unless there was some sort of religious Puritan belief that you shouldn't have too much color. But yeah, humans are attracted to color, and we look for it, and we find it, and we make it around us. There are so many artifacts that we thought were not very colorful that turns out to have been very colorful. It's just the color had faded, and we did not realize. Grayleon says, hello, hello, welcome. Hope you are having a good Thursday. We are having fun with the camera that doesn't quite want to keep the battery running, but we are making do with what we can. I think I would like to have one of those in my crafting room, one of the light things. Yes. And since they are like not, I think they said that they were around 50 euros about now. So like, it's not cheap to test out if it works or not. It's frustrating if it doesn't work, but it can be saved up for, like, it's within one's reach to you know, save up for or spend money on if that is something one wants to try. Like, it can help with seasonal depression too, potentially. But yeah, I've lived in places where they actually had them in public spaces, and I know that they can be quite helpful, especially a lot of the exchange students from much further south. I mean, I just came from further south of Norway, so I was used to long winters. But a lot of our exchange students from Africa, we lived with one from Ghana. He was so depressed, poor thing, when the winter came, that he really needed those sunlight lamps. They were essential, and they still struggled a lot. Need to remember to get mine out again for the winter, since the sun is going down around 4 o'clock at the moment. I had been wondering why I had been getting tired so early recently. Worth trying out. Light should be used in the morning and shouldn't be used too close to bedtime, or it interferes with the circadian rhythm. Good point. I had forgotten to talk about that, because I was so enthusiastic about just the sheer technology of it all, that we have this kind of technology is kind of cool. I mean, not gonna lie, that is kind of awesome. So I've started a swatch in the round with 4 sections for steeking, so I can try everyone's ideas. It's gonna take a while to get this long enough to test. We believe in you, Haley. You can do the thing. What was I gonna do? What about some yellow over here? Sure, it's a good idea. Yellow is such a happy color. Speaking of color, colorful things and color theory and all the like. Might end up choosing a different pattern before I get to that point. Just finished making a couple of pairs of cable knit fingerless gloves, so I want another fun project. We do like our fun projects. Wait, what are we? No, closer to the center, madam. That's not how that stitch works. Oops. There we are. Swatching isn't giving me the dopamine. I can understand that. It doesn't have the same allure as getting to work on a new project. But if I had been better at swatching, so I'm not going to lecture anyone on the benefit of swatching, because I frequently don't do it myself, although I should. I just try to start the project, and I have to frog it and start it and frog it and start it until I have like the right stitch count or the right needles or whatever, which would have been solved if I would have just swatched it first. But So I am in no position to lecture anyone on, doing their swatches when I'm really bad at doing it myself. So I get it. I understand that it doesn't have the same, quite the same allure as just starting a new project. But I will say it would have saved me many, many hours of frogging if I had been better at swatching first. We can share the shame if nothing else. But I feel like just like with mockups, like there's a lot of people talking in favor of like wearable mockups, where either the mockup becomes the lining or becomes a little project in its own right, or you use it for something. It doesn't just go in the fabric scraps heap, which I'm in favor of because I try to use my scraps, and even though I don't feel like I've made that many scraps, it's still enough that it takes a while with projects like these to try to make any sort of headway into the scrap heap. But that was always one of my challenges with mockups, is that you just want to make the real project, or you don't want to quote unquote waste fabric doing a mockup, and then you can't use that fabric for anything else. And so I feel like similarly for swatching, like I want to make it into something. Maybe I should have like a swatch quilt where I just make little squares and join them together into a great big weird blanket type thing. I don't know. It would take a long time to finish, but it could be fun. I don't know. Temples were painted too in Greece, Rome, and Egypt too. Yes, Tvian, you always have such good history insights. Absolutely. I think especially temples, because they were the place of worship, so they should have the brightest, most colorful colors and all the cool things. Yeah, humans have been attracted to color. Like, we're little magpies when it comes down to it. We are about to have a little bit of ads. If you're new here, we pause for ads. You don't miss content. We just grab our drink, which is, in this case, in a very convenient thermos cups. My tea is still warm, which it wasn't when we were doing cute Halloween stuff, but it was very cute. But yes, we just chill out, you don't miss anything, and we shall talk more about mockups after. Love a good ads? I know ads are frustrating, but they are part of the internet, aren't they? And you like me hanging out with you at this time, so that's kind of how we help the lights keep stay on. But yeah, they can be frustrating, can't they? Yeah, even when I had the space and budget to do sewing project, I never did mock-ups because I just didn't have that much energy. I needed to use what I could spare on the actual project. Yeah, I can understand the energy level of it too. It's one of the reasons, and I like loose clothing to begin with. Like, I like clothing that sort of constricts only at the necessary point, like cuffs and maybe the waist and something like that. Like, otherwise it's loose and flowy and comfortable, so I can generally get away with, and I know you're still wasting some fabric when you do that, but you can still, I like cutting it if I'm uncertain about something, like the crotch of a pair of trousers are always a finicky part, like the waistline, getting it, if you want high waist, getting it high enough. I will try to cut the crucial areas a little bit too big so that I have room to cut around or like cut a second time if I need to adjust it a little bit. Which, I mean, still wastes a little bit of fabric, but I mean, it feels like it wastes less than doing a whole mock-up. Especially if I only needed it for like a section of the garment that I was uncertain about. But to each their own, mock-ups are very valuable, especially if you're making tight-fitting clothing. They can be very important. But yeah, I'm not very good about doing them, I have to admit. I use some of the mock-ups as pajamas for both my daughter and me. That's a good one. Yeah, again with the wearable mock-ups. I love those. They are very good indeed when people are actually using them for other things. You can make at least one stir with the... Here I am with thread chicken again. I don't have to do thread chicken, but it's so satisfying in a weird way. We're going to waft away. Well, have a good one, Lisa. Hope to see you again at some point, if you would like, again in a non-pressure type of way. Ooh, we can make many stars, because stars don't take a lot of yarn. Oh, chaos. Chaos crafting all around. You can reuse the mock-ups or make the next mock-up too, just cutting the smaller pieces from the bigger ones. Yes, more good advice. I think it depends a lot on what you are making too, like how much you need a mock-up. Well, some projects certainly need a mock-up. If I ever were to do like a Victorian walking dress or something like that with a bodice and everything, like a mock-up would be useful so that you know how to cut the final fashion fabric. I just haven't done many of those, have I? Come on, we have enough for making it symmetrical. Oops, I shouldn't be making it symmetrical. It's not the cleverest when you have limited amounts of space, because it's very obvious when it isn't, but live dangerously. Not really. Try to keep it safe, but... I think we can do one more in either this direction or the other direction, so we're gonna have to choose. Hello. Hope you all have something that makes you smile today. I hope so too. That's a good well wish for anyone, I think. I'm one multinational server I'm in. We like to say ZAG or TSAF, short for the time zone appropriate greeting or time zone appropriate farewell. I love that. There's so many creative ways of getting around trying to like do the regular niceties and polite greetings, but in a way that actually works for everyone. Are you going to join us again, madam? Well, I mean, we don't mind. You're going to be documented for the masses. Where's my settings? They are over there, I think, yes. No? There you go, sweetie. When it comes to mockups, I just trust my guts and hope everything goes smoothly. It's a strategy. I follow the same strategy frequently myself. Sometimes it works, sometimes doesn't always, but Yes, the flame is still flaming. I know we don't commonly have candles, but it's still a little fire, and you still shouldn't stick your nose in it. I'm going to eat a bit of breakfast and maybe a nap. Baked bread, persimmon from my tree, and honey from my bees. Pretty good for a city dweller. That does sound lovely. Hope you have a very good rest of your day. Hello, Ash. Welcome to our little cozy hangout retreat. Doing a little bit of everything. Let's see if we can bury this thread if we just convince it that it wants to get back on my embroidery needle. Yes. Nothing like winning chicken when you don't have to even cut the thread. I do make swatches when knitting though. Oh, interesting, because I'm really bad. I'm even worse about making swatches for knitting than I am for sewing, but it's different for everybody, I guess. Why have I not cut this thread? Because you don't have to. You're going to cut around it later when you're doing the edge binding. Cat cam time, yes. She left us and now she has returned. I use the smallest pieces for waxed thread ironing. Ooh, so many good suggestions. Cat cam needs to be zoomed in a little bit. Maybe we should have a stream that is all cat cam. No. No streamer, only cat. The cat is the streamer now. What else? Looks like I've used pink for stars quite a bit, but never as a seam in and of itself. Maybe we should amend that. What do you think? Freshly waxed thread is sticky and coated unevenly. You can iron it between two pieces of paper or fabric to smooth it out. Make the wax melt into the fibers. Interesting. I have never done that with waxed thread. I found it usually the heat of the sewing and pulling the thread. That's helped me enough, but I haven't looked deeply enough into the science of it all. Would you like to choose a thread, darling? No? This is just a thimble. We do have this brown though, that we could also use. We did talk about how we don't really have that many bright colors, unless around here maybe. Could do some brown around here, if we wanted to. These are... you are 4 threads, you just one was hiding. Farewell, Twian. Have a good dinner. Let's see. Yep. Well, the only thing I'm familiar with, Ash, when it comes to wax thread, I'm sure you'll get better answers in the comments, but we use it for linen and things and sewing historical clothing because the wax helps keep the linen fibers together, which makes the linen stronger, although archaeologically we have found both when we're looking for it. Like, you find both waxed and unwaxed wax thread. And I don't think I've read anything indicating if there is a difference in what they use it for, or if it was just a difference in what different sewists prefer, what different cultures prefer, what different areas of the world. I'm sorry, madam. I don't mean to interrupt. Let's see. Is this stitch going... This stitch is going right to left, so we're going to start over here. Don't worry, I'm a professional. My waxed but not ironed thread catches too much cat fur. That is always a risk, isn't it? I feel like anything I make catches cat fur, no matter what I do, anyway. And I kind of just accepted it. It makes the thread a lot less unruly too, from a chronic overlong thread user. I mean, fair. Using too long thread is very tempting. Seems so much more efficient in the moment, and then you're sitting there with a very long thread you have to pull through every single stitch. And by the time you get to a more manageable length, you're like, now the thread is all frayed and frizzled. And less than ideal. And yet the next time we cut a thread, we do it all over again. Ironing as in method of applying the wax to the thread. Ah, yeah. Pardon. I thought we were talking about wax threads in general. I've only waxed thread for bookbinding before. It helps keep the long lengths of thread untangled. That is a very useful. I've only ever used one piece of wax thread at a time, and then to stitch linen shifts and underdresses so that they stay nice and, you know, all the stitches stay where you put them without unraveling, which is very useful for shifts that get a lot of use and a lot of wear and tear and a lot of laundering. Started waxing lightly my embroidery floss. Stops it from getting thinner when sewing and stops it knotting. Oh, that is always a good tip. I do have some thread that is very prone to knotting, so I might try that out with it. I do have a trusty bit of beeswax hanging out, because why not? Again, we were talking about practices that were done in history and have been left by the wayside, but maybe we should pick it up again, because maybe there is something to what they were doing. After all, can you move the cat cam further away from the cat so that the entire cat is visible in frame as she moves and changes position? I am not sure if I can. We are a bit tight on space on my poor desk. And before we hit the camera as well, there is a desk here that makes it a bit difficult to maneuver without also the camera just toppling over. Don't fall, please. No, now we're at the wrong in the other direction again. Yes, you know the poor desk is gonna show up. It's a hard thing, this cat cam management business. I'm disturbing the snoozing madam. And for bookbinding nowadays, I mainly use dental floss for that, only easy and minty fresh. It's quite pleasant to work with, provided one likes the smell of mint, which I happen to do. I found that wax thread tangles and twists less, and for me it works even on polyester, even though people say that it's useful only for cotton and linen thread. It also makes the poly thread less shiny. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, it makes sense to me that it would be useful both ways. Perhaps people only have experience with doing it with cotton and linen, but yeah, it's good to know that it works for that too, if one happens to have remnants hanging about, which I have inherited some spools of thread, and I also have some old spools of thread from before I got more aware of these things that is polyester, so, and I kind of want to use it up rather than throwing it out, because it's already been produced, so I don't really want to just waste it. I can't afford to get up to iron it though, because even sitting is a struggle, so I just wax it and then rub it between my hands. Yeah, that works too. So long as we're creating things, isn't it? Beeswax is just so handy. It is. And for like furniture polish and stuff like that too. Oiling, conditioning mixed with other amounts of oils because it hardens so fast. It's very, very useful. Bees are amazing. Would be a good chemistry and history deep dive. That would be a big one. Beeswax is a big topic. There's so many uses for it the world over. My goodness. Why did you come with? You were not supposed to come with, but maybe I need to sharpen this needle again. I batch iron the threads like 20 at once because I'm too lazy to go and iron it every time. Good solutions. I like to use long threads, maybe that's why I love my wax thread. That is fair. We all find ways to work that works with our style, and I imagine people in history were not that much different. Like, you would find something that works with your preferences rather than against them, because why wouldn't you? You have to sit and make the thing all the time anyway. Why not make it in a way that is easier on your brain or your body or whatever culturally thing that your region is doing? Just make it a little bit more pleasant for yourself. Makes sense to me. Moving it back and forth above the toaster. Interesting. I mean, theoretically, maybe. It seems easier if you have something like a hairdryer or a heat gun, but I don't know. I don't have much experience with it. I haven't actually ironed my wax threads. I just use them as is. Because I'm impatient. But yeah, beeswax is super, super versatile. So useful. I don't know if you can hear this. Let's see if I can move the microphone closer, but oh, no, I don't think. Oh, you woke up. But Madam was snoring, and she snores so adorably. I think we talked about this last time too, but like, what do you call it when the cat is making a sound that isn't a snore, isn't a purr, isn't a growl? And I think we landed on huff as like really cute little sounds that I would call a certain thing in Norwegian, but the English language doesn't quite have something that conveys the sheer utter cuteness of the sound. But I think huff was as close as we were going to get. Many votes for heating the beeswax between one's hands after one has waxed the thread. And that is kind of what I'm leaning towards, just like spit splicing when you're needle binding, like using spit instead of water, because it's there. You have it readily accessible. You don't have to carry a cup around. You just kind of use what you have, and that works so well. Used as an affordable way to seal unglazed pottery. You realize that it's just ubiquitous across human craft. Ooh, yeah, that's really cool. That makes sense, because I mean, you would wax a lot of other things too to seal them, so why not pottery? If you can get access to beeswax. Depending on what one means by affordable, I guess, because beeswax candle were very often very much reserved for the wealthy. So I kind of always assumed that beeswax was a little bit harder to obtain for people in general, but maybe not small quantities, not for things like that, perhaps. Would be interesting to know more about it, though I wouldn't know where to start. Linseed oil is too, but that takes longer. Yeah, linseed oil takes longer to cure. And I think I have the impression that that was quite ubiquitous too, even though you have to be cautious about the flammability of it all. But what's the word in Norwegian? In Norwegian, I would say like snøft eller grynt, which is the same sound as the pig makes, but there is kind of... there's an inherent cuteness of the word that is kind of hard to... But I think huff captures it pretty well, although you wouldn't say that a pig is huffing, maybe. This is timely in the matter of auto-dubbing things and translations and that kind of thing, that translating nuance and context is hard. It's hard even for humans to do. So having an automated process that do it is going to be challenging. We know how much Google Translate already struggles with languages, especially from different language families, that I'm skeptical of machines doing that kind of task yet, because where would they get the context of all the different niche subjects that we talk about? That I would worry that people would lose the context in that way. I think it was maybe chuff. Oh, maybe, yeah. As an exhale that's slightly a snort, but adorably a little more throaty, but not at all a growl, mixed with the sound of a huff. Yeah, chuff is a good one. That is a very good. Yeah, that is probably what. It's a very good summary, Catherine. A mix of all of the above, and quite hard to translate. But I mean, cultures have words for things that are relevant to the culture. Like Norwegian and many other northern languages have different phrases for snow that you wouldn't need when you were further south, but I'm sure they have different phrases for things that I wouldn't have a use for. They would struggle to translate, and that is ubiquitous to them. And, you know, back and forth like that, there's always something. Snort might get close in English? Yeah, maybe. But again, it was that I was struggling because I was dissatisfied with the inherent, like, it needed to have a cuteness factor to convey the absolute adorableness that is a cat making cute little nosy sounds. We had a whole thing going. We don't need to go into that again, but translation is its own thing, and suddenly I'll get stuck on a single word in a sentence, and I'm like, I can feel that I'm very close to the word that I want, but it's not quite. It's almost, but not quite there. And you'll just get stuck, and it's like, just spit out something. But I wanted to convey the whole thing. I imagine people who translate books get frustrated by this quite frequently. Hi everyone, hello Leia, welcome. Let's see if I probably missed a lot of stuff. Not to mention dialectical variation. Yes, there's so many different things. Language is fascinating. What is really funny with Google Translate is how often it very obviously goes through English to translate from one language to another, even for single words. That is a good point, and it has some interesting results stemming from that. Like, you can always stumble upon something that is like, that is not quite what. Snuffle, maybe. That's adorable too. Artificial intelligence, my blurted out. Yeah, but I feel like the name does it a disservice, and it's frustrating because there are many different algorithms that are all called colloquially artificial intelligence, even though they are very different. And I wonder if that is like just accidental, or if that is confusing on purpose, but I find it quite frustrating. But I mean, they are still just algorithms. They aren't intelligent, they don't think, they just behave the programming, which can be quite complex, but only as complex as the humans who wrote it. But we've talked about, because they're, that I can remember off the top of my head, the two biggest classes of artificial intelligence are, you know, generative things that I don't really see that much use of, and then the pattern recognition things that helps you with things like cancer recognition in blood samples, in tissue samples. You use it for a lot of science already, like uses this kind of technology, has been using it for a while, for looking for patterns in things. That was the whole Japanese invention that was supposed to look for something in images of bread, I think, in yeast, and turn out to be a really good cancer detector. And they were like, all right. So now that's the thing that it does. And that is all pattern recognition. There is a lot of good stuff that comes from things like that. And then there's the generative AI, which is what we hear about when we talk about AI these days, that it's all generative AI, which again isn't really intelligent. It doesn't have its own intelligence. It's doing what you told it, like anything a computer does. It does what we told it. And of course, because the internet is full of people with biases, you end up with biased models. And then you end up with people getting discriminated against because of how the thing has been trained and what it has been trained on, which is really, really a challenge. And something I wish would get even more attention, because that is really becoming a problem. My thread, kindly stay on the needle. Ooh, we are about to have some ads. So I guess that's a good time to get my thread back on my needle. I'm sorry for disturbing you, madam. Oops. Hey. Let's try that one more time. Ooh, hydration. Yeah, well, that is one of the reasons why I prefer the term LLM, large language model, to AI. Yeah, I agree. I should probably do that too, because there is such a big difference between the different types of models, and they're still just models. They're still just algorithms. Like, they're not magic. They are not thinking independently. They are still algorithms and models, which is not new. Just more advanced the more technology we get. Progress. You know, I kind of like this little... We had an old piece of hexagon swatches, so I put a little star. Oh, I forgot you can't see it because I put it on manual focus, but we have made some progress. We are getting there. It's starting to get covered in stitches. You can't really see it though, because I turned off the autofocus because the autofocus was not cooperating. But The worst is when you are using 3 languages daily and you can't recall the correct word in what is theoretically your native language. Word. Or you can't remember the word in either language and you're like, why did my brain just short circuit? Or you're talking to someone who is also like multilingual but not one of the other languages you speak, and then you're suddenly blurred out with the phrase in one of the languages they don't speak, and they're like, what are you doing? Don't understand that. One of my friends wanted to check the Japanese translation for hirondelle, which is the bird swallow, and it's about the Japanese translation of the verb swallowing. Yeah. 2 words have nothing to do with each other in either language. Yeah, that is a pretty funny example of stories gone wrong. That it wasn't supposed to involve English at all. Yeah, that is always something to think about. It's one of the reasons whenever I translate species names, I never use Google Translate. I actually use Wikipedia for that, which is surprisingly reliable, because whatever you do, if you know that in like Norwegian and English are big enough languages that I can generally find a Latin name, and since we have the Latin system for plants and birds, I will go look up the Latin name, and then I will either just change the language of Wikipedia to the English article instead of the Norwegian one, or I will plug the Latin name into Google and it'll spit out the English one, because so much of the internet is in English. I haven't tried it for other languages though, but I'm sure it would work. So long as you can find a reliable plant site or anything in the other language. But of course in Norwegian there are many names that we only use Latin for because we don't actually have a word for it in Norwegian, because it doesn't exist here, which is its own kind of interesting thing. It takes a lot of work and double skill sets to be an accomplished writer and nuance translator. No one wants to pay enough for books. That is a very good point, and yet we like literature, but we want it for cheap, and it's a lot of work. The first that I got was for a phone translation service. Oh, that is ironic. Skilled human translators are a precious resource. I wish I was one. Alas, I'm not. Yeah, that is definitely. And they rarely, like, there was this whole thing where, like, sign language translators were not getting paid enough, and they were striking because they should be paid as much as other translators, and there was this whole weird thing that they had a different rate or something, and they were complaining. And I get that, because they're a language just as anyone else, and they should definitely be paid as well as other translators. But yeah, there are never enough of them. They really are very, very valuable and so necessary in many different settings, not just writing, but, you know, doctor's appointments, and like a lot of immigrant children will talk about having to go to the doctor with their parent and having to deliver, you know, devastating news to their parents that they weren't really even old enough to understand, which is very inappropriate and definitely should have had a professional medical translator along instead of a poor child doing their best. Me verbing in Japanese but grammaring in French and writing in English. Yeah, that was one of the things that I really struggled with when I couldn't get English before I flipped the switch in my head, that we talked about as well on another, that some other people also have had a similar experience, that they go from not really managing to use it effectively to a switch flipping in their head and them suddenly being able to use the language quite effectively. And for me, that switch flipped once I start to properly think in English. Like when I talk in English, I also think in English. So that helps with the words that come out. And you can really hear it if you're familiar with both languages, you can really hear it when they're talking. If someone is thinking in Norwegian, for instance, to speak English, you will hear it in their sentence structure, and you'll hear it in a lot of things because they're so different. Even for so similar languages, you hear that they aren't thinking in English, and that gives them, then they will stumble on a lot of things. I also use Wikipedia for species. Yes, it's super useful for that because it'll give you the Latin name and then you can just translate the article. Or you will have the, especially if it's a big language like Spanish or English, it'll have the article in a different language already proofread by some humans. Over on the side, it's perfect for that. Well, really, really good at least. Yeah, swapping the language in wiki articles works great as long as it exists. That's the problem, isn't it? If it's a less active or smaller language. Loan word life? Yes. All the loan words all the time. And you stand there with multiple multilingual people and and you're going like, the thing with the stuff and this and you're standing there like you're almost touching the word, like you can almost sense it. It's there, the shape of it, and it's just dropped out of your head and into a void. Did you eat it? Are you eating the words when I can't find them? And you're just standing there like, come on, Rain, work with me here. I'm a pretty decent writer in both French and English, but yeah, translation is yet another skill because things like what part of the sentence gets emphasized in a language is important linguistic info. Yeah, it really is. And I know that a lot of authors, if they have like complex books in series that haven't come out yet, where they're laying, down hints for things to come, they need to have forums. And they used to do like letter correspondence with their translator back in the day, where they had like a translation kit where they're like, be sure to translate this to include this information, because here is a hint that you might not have noticed on your read through because it's only meant to be a very subtle little thing. And they'll have this whole section where, you need to get the hints right for the whole series to make sense. And when it's a popular series, it gets translated one book at a time rather than the whole series in one go. The translator is going to need a bit of help. But I don't know about other multilingual people. This is something that I've struggled with, but I have an easier time writing in English. I've been so used to it. It's been my primary language for over a decade now. Almost 2 decades, to be honest. When it comes to work specifically, and of course the English parts of the internet. And I know this is a level of distancing myself from the thing, but I find that it's easier to write emotional things in English. I find that it is easier to phrase things. I just use, it's probably shameful to admit, but I just use English more. I mean, I use it for the videos that you watch, or maybe not, but the videos that I make, I use it for talking to you, for like, accident or not, it turned out to right now be English. That is like an international language that a lot of people speak as their second or third language. But yeah, I just find it easier to find phrases sometimes in English, probably just because I have a lot more training in it by now. Which is not very good Norwegian of me. Yes, thinking in the language is the whole idea with like ethnographers chronicling dying languages, because they are cultural vehicles of important information. Yes, absolutely. I started learning a little bit of Arabic this year, and it's so useful to know its cultural lexical content. Yes, I absolutely agree. We know that language is culture, and that how you see the world can be very not perceived, but can be very affected by language. Like, people have talked about how they're a different person when they speak English, whereas when they speak their native tongue, either because they're a bit more formal, or they're a bit funnier, or they're a little bit more of this, a little bit more like that. But like, just like when you talk differently at work than what you would with your parents, or you would with your friends, or you would in the grocery store, that code switching that people do. There's also, of course, and this makes sense, the same thing happens when you switch languages, because different languages, different culture put different emphasis on nuances in different subjects. So yeah, it's so valuable to like store language information on dying languages, which I wish weren't dying, which is sad, but because there is so much, it tells you so much about what the culture values in how they talk about and see the world. I wish I was better with languages. I've tried to learn a third language, like Japanese or French or Spanish or German, and they just don't stick. I just can't flip that same switch that I managed to do after years and years and years of struggling with English. But I really, really think it's amazing the people who are able to do that, like polyglots who are really like doing a lot of languages. They're so impressive. Oh, my brain swapped to Norwegian for a moment. So I was gonna say I bow in the dust, which is not how you say that in English. But it's a term for, you know, being very impressed and bowing, curtsying, bowing very deeply because you are very much respectful of the other person. I am very good at words today. Can you tell I'm getting tired? If I ever publish something, I would like to translate it myself, but have a good translator edit it for that reason. Yeah, if I did any publishing, I would like to have both editions, both Norwegian and English by myself. Of course, I can't do any of the other ones, but if I ever did that. But it's a lot of work, isn't it? And there's only so many hours, and there's so many cool things to do. And then there's time. When was a word first used historically, and slang that comes and goes, and just general feel, atmosphere to convey. It's complex. It is. Language is so... like everything begins and ends with communication, which is language. It's just like social interactions, communicating ideas. Everything begins and ends with communication, social and like body language and verbal and all of the things. Like, I'm just realizing this more and more the older I get, that just it's the alpha and omega. It's the all important. Like, communicating is a hard skill to master because it's complex, but it's so important. Norwegian also has its own written language separate from spoken, so I think that's probably primed you. I don't know. I mean, we have two written languages because we're special like that, and big dialectical variations for such a tiny language, tiny country, because of all the mountains, and many different dialects, with very different sentence structures and words, and again, nuances and absolutely fascinating things. My husband was raised with a dialect, and I can tell if he met someone in the day from the same area he's from, his vocabulary changes. Yeah, when I studied in the north, and I'm originally from the southeast, when I studied in the north, past the Arctic Circle in Tromsø, at some point I was so exhausted that I started talking with the North Norwegian cadence, which is very sing-songy. It goes a lot up and down. It's very beautiful. But I was still speaking with southeastern words, which sounded really strange. Just absolutely very strange. And my tired brain was picking up that something was wrong with the way I was speaking. Well, wrong. And it was very strange. And I just flipped. Again, a switch flipped, just like with English. And I started speaking North Norwegian. I haven't kept up with it because I haven't lived in the Arctic for a long time. So now it's very watered out, the accent. But I still flip between two Norwegian accents. I have like my North Norwegian accents that I speak whenever I encounter someone from similar regions, and then I have the southeastern one, and I don't control it consciously. They just kind of spill out depending on who I'm talking to, and again, how I'm thinking, which language I'm thinking in, what language dialect I'm thinking in. It's got a lot. This gets very convoluted, I feel. But didn't people swap the bokmål fully versus nynorsk? Genuinely forgotten? No. The nynorsk users will be very insulted if you say that. There are still regions where nynorsk is the majority language. And they're fighting for that because, again, the cultural heritage and the talking about language is culture, is history, is all of the things, and the importance of having that language. So there is still a thing in Norway that if you are a government official, if you are a public servant of any kind, and someone reaches out to you with an email in either bokmål or nynorsk, which is the two different written languages of Norwegian. We also have Sami, which is a different story. And Sami has many different, not just dialects, but languages. South Sami and North Sami do not understand one another. They are different languages, different story. But if someone contacts you in either bokmål or nynorsk, which is two different written variants of Norwegian, you have to respond in kind. You have to respond with the dialect form that they asked you questions for. Same with universities. If you have a nynorsk using student, you have to provide their exam for them in nynorsk. And there has been so many ridiculous things. It happens every year where there is an office that you can go to, where there is an employee that will help you translate your exam into the language you don't speak. Which, I mean, universities are very international places, so a lot of professors are not Norwegian. They are Greek or French or German or American or what have you. So they have problem enough learning one Norwegian written language, let alone two. So they get very frustrated about this, understandably. But there is this office that you can go to, but a lot of people are not aware of that. So they just try to do their own botched version, and they are, I mean, it must be very stressful for the student, but they are just so bad, so wrong, in no way correct. And I mean, the nynorsk users are quite discriminated against because a lot of bokmål, which is the majority, I don't remember the numbers nationally, but the bokmål is majority by far nationally, just not in a few regions, especially in the west of Norway. So they are discriminated against pretty hard because bokmål users think it's very cumbersome that there are two written languages. They would like to get rid of just one of them and just use their own, of course, because they are the majority and they would like to be the primary language, which of course we all know how it looks when you have a majority of people who wants to just get rid of a minority of people. It doesn't look very good, does it? Even if it's a thing like a written language. So you will have experiences like, I once taught a class of, I'm sorry, this is a very ranty tangent about language, very local to Norway. But I once taught a group of students in practical organic chemistry, which is, you have them in the lab and you teach them organic lab stuff. You do some experiments and you'd have fun. And they were clearly testing the waters to see if I was going to be mean to nynorsk users or if I was going to tolerate nynorsk users. Because of my class of 16 students, I got one report in nynorsk and I corrected it and sent it back. And next time they delivered their reports, I had 4 primary nynorsk users suddenly in my class of 16 students. They were clearly a group of friends that had sent sort of one person out to test the waters. And when I had no negative feedback, they could sort of all relax and send me their journals in their primary written language, which was fascinating to me, but also very sad that they kind of feel like they have to do that. But yeah. I also had a few ambitious students ask if instead of in Norwegian they could write the reports in English, and they were primarily Norwegian users. And I was like, yes, but I will be just as hard on your grammar in Norwegian as I am in English. And they kind of mumbled, and they still gave me the reports in English, but true to my word, I still grade them just as thoroughly in either language, because I'm really comfortable with both. My husband can speak his dialect with people quite far into Germany, as they have a very similar dialect there. Ooh, I love when dialects and stuff transcends borders as well. Like between Norway and Sweden, there is this very how do I even explain it? Like transitional dialect where you clearly hear aspects of both Norwegian and Swedish, because they're along the border, so of course you would have a bit of both. And it's super cool to hear, you know, how people are just people. Borders are just human inventions. No need to apologize for the tangent. Well, that's good that you are slightly fascinated, even if it's very, very small detail. My family is half Norwegian on both sides, so it's a personal bias for me. I can see that. Oh, sweetie. We are very lucky in that we don't really have... Ooh. In that we don't really have cats that are very guardy of their bellies. I get to do belly rubs on my little void. The intersection of language and culture and social justice doesn't seem out of place on this channel. I'm glad. I'm glad we have that impression. That is good. Plattdeutsch, Low German, which summarizes close to Dutch. We also call their dialect Platt, but only colloquially. Interesting. There's so many cool belly rubs. Yes. Well, kind of very bendy, banana-y belly rubs. Belly rubs on cats are the best. They are. They are so soft. They are so soft. You are gonna slide headfirst down my knees, madam, if you continue like this. But on that very happy, very soft note, I think we are going to start wrapping up for the day before Madam slides down my lap. And I'm gonna go... Ooh. Hey. I'm gonna go off and brush my teeth and do all sorts of late in the evening things, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of your rest of your week, whatever you do. And Darling is gonna snuggle for a while longer, which I'm probably gonna have to find her a snack to entice her off my lap in any sort of diplomatic way. Shall we just... Can we get a close-up of this face? Because it is a very cute face. Look at that face. Huh. My beautiful girl. Yes, oops. Frisian tea. Yes, I love it. Anyway, yes, before Madam goes, have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week, and I hope I see you again soon. Bye. Hey.